The Great Dunga.
Well,
Give us your full name.
my name is Nyarko.
Albert Nyarko.
Yeah.
Okay.
People call me Oko.
Call you Oko.
I'm twin.
Yeah, twin. Yeah. Identical twins or?
No. Boy and girl.
Boy and girl. Two.
Boy and girl. Two.
So are you like the older or?
No, younger.
Younger. Okay. Where were you born?
Trapiasi. In Koko side.
In Koko. Okay. So in Koko, you grew up there?
No, Ndaya.
Okay. Tell me more.
In Badaya, Teshi.
Yeah. Okay.
In Badaya, Teshi few.
And
we moved to
Labadi. How old were you when you moved to Teshi?
Like 7.
7?
Yeah.
7? Meaning 7?
7 years.
7? It come in your age.
7, like.
In or hello. Only 7 in Ghana. How do you say it?
I'm not pure Ghana.
You're not pure Ghana?
50-50.
So, who is Ewe? Is it your mother or your father? Your father is Ewe?
Yeah.
Efo. Your father is Efo. What's his name?
Mr. Nyarko.
Mr. Nyarko.
Yeah.
But I've never met an Ewe called Nyarko.
I'm a bird. I try Papa
Nkrumah.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. And then your mother is what?
My mother is a Ghana.
She's a Ghana.
Yeah.
Ghana and Ewes, I don't know. The love there is too strong. Okay. So half Ewe, half Ghana. Twins. Have you been to the Volta region before?
Yes. Like 4 or 5 times.
4 or 5 times. Where in the Volta region did you go? Balime. How long were you there for?
I think 1 day.
1 day?
2 days.
2 days?
Yeah, 2 days.
What did you go and do there?
Funeral.
Funeral. Do you know whose funeral? Just family? They said.
My grandfather.
Your grandfather. Okay. So for this one to work, when I ask the question, you expand on it a little bit. So you say more. Give me short answer. So but say more, but still have a language on.
Sure.
Yeah, you understand. So grandfather, tell me, what do you remember about the funeral?
Okay. Mika can what yala. Ni wakati noji nini na serve.
Oh, okay.
Because they know where ambassador Babili akushi.
Oh, okay. So who cooked the food?
My sister.
Your sister. What's her name?
Mabina.
Yeah.
I
don't understand. Ewe married to a Ghana and the child's name is Mabina.
Yes.
Because she was also born in Koko or?
Yes, I think so.
You think so?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about when you were growing up. What school did you attend?
Teshi Methodist.
Teshi Methodist?
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember your first day at school?
First day at school. Germany na.
Okay. Opla.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell us about it. How did that happen?
The school like shisho.
Yeah.
No na time na chiyo.
Yeah.
So inani team way. Nike bashpon.
You were doing skills.
Yeah. Inshani ni. Inyanyo. Ifu inabuke. Ifu keje no kra.
Oh.
Yeah.
So
Shina back.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you took it, you found it, and then you
No, never ever back. Like
it grew back.
Yeah, in my life, like no found out your life, like it's a miracle.
It's a miracle.
I passed through a lot.
So it came off.
Yes.
They couldn't find it.
No.
But somehow it grew back.
Yes.
That is a miracle. I've never heard of that before. How old were you at that time?
I think 9, 10.
9, 10. So when it happened, I'm sure you cried.
Yeah, it off. It off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they had to call your mother or?
Yeah, I came to the hospital then.
Okay.
No me mami be wa ma say mami ye la. Me and papa ma say.
Okay. Okay. Wow. So you said you've passed through a lot. I want us to spend some time on
Passed through a lot.
some of the things. So this one, and then it grew back. Were you?
I think this one is small.
It's small.
It's a small one.
It's a small one.
Yeah.
So give me something else in your life that.
Okay. My life, like each one BP me. Okay, check okwendi bien electric.
Shock.
Yes, it came in when they came back trashing.
What were you doing at the time?
We are playing football. Yeah, like choose or more. Okay, all this I'm a film and I could say like cable. I'm a from a say anything. Or one trouble any bullet TJ no me any or ni mommy electric a shot or in brother he beba hit me leon. Oh, you know shortly or in of cry. Always say ragged in call me I guess like in bonity she may hear me. Yeah, she's true.
So when it happened, so you remember going to grab then you don't remember anything again?
No.
And then the next thing you remembered, what? Were you in a hospital or you?
Hospital.
You were in a hospital?
Yeah.
Did you have any like dream or something when it happened or?
It's like trance.
It's like trance?
Yeah.
So what did you see?
No kutuma like Ogbo ni like tomorrow. In here tomorrow, ekutumo heaven. Yeah, no kuna fine.
Okay. And then what happened? Did you meet anybody?
Meet me. Show na ke rafi tomorrow. Oh. Abo no. Or nisha jamani go. It's more ke fear my reaction like I want to say it.
Yeah. Say it.
Okay. Me to no ni manu. She no go ke ma ke shike. Ami no eni no e. Ipu on say do. One can no.
Okay.
Yeah. O jamani. Be mana hele shishko me. Yeah, hospital.
Wow. Okay. That was powerful. So then, what else?
And I think this one.
Okay. Tell me about that.
No, like, one shit, yes, in here for bucket. The old bucket. Yeah, it's shishing invasion. Only in the channel. So, if.
Okay. And then there was a lot. It's a deep cut, so there was a lot of blood.
Yeah.
Were you scared?
No,
not really. So after everything that's happened in your life, do you get afraid of anything?
Me. Okay. No me inshe no kubeshin. Ina accident, car accident. Okay, lorry somersault ni intro. In be a fiagbo, like intro a fiagbo. Like a package fishing. Oh. Show you see anything. A package fishing cry or German like ni sister ke ya fuba. Or German own tea off na kind of. She if him to like trans same thing. She mean like insistent fokemba, into sister a fokemba. Or ni you for me we like a kafu. She like mama back. Always I'm trying to be a strong guy. Yeah, so I'll say, don't worry, I'll come back. My back, Matish. Or them when you're highly in hospital. Or need to see like none of them Ujenoko is normal. She need a queen here mirror me and I wow, the thing is serious.
Yeah.
So it starts like a me shigwe intro.
Okay.
Yeah, she like I'll be okay. Yeah.
Okay.
So in I try pepe.
So how do you see life, like this thing called life that we are living? Some people are struggling to make ends meet. Some people are worried more about what happens after life. For you, how do you advise anybody to live life?
Okay, to me, I always say call young guys saying back is like area mini engineer with friends, a lot of friends, but ekomebo ekomeye seke ekomeye prison nini madromo na mi beno kona kami now ekomeye shele weed Come fan here, essentially weed. She young guy said neighbor weed. Afunkoke, a favor Savasa no down, maybe P. Can always and come at Shiko. Inch on the B piano. Ninka Sini. Yanibi Ninchomi. Always every Akashiko. No more dromona, Nika here. Or I advise a young guy packaging. Come on. Yano actually we. Yanuda. Alo Yano Akomo Kunoko. Yeah. I can't call me. Best thing in Kamaji. Noni Okwafi. Best thing. Like, Koi Hanumo. Spend more time in your machine. Kono Umyo no Yasun. Yeah.
So why do you think that you didn't follow people to go and do it, or did you do a little bit of it?
No, because
Why?
in the energy.
Okay.
Before a family they have money. She ba share kwe ni bi abibawa.
Okay.
Yeah, ibuwa dadu bana no baye. Yo. Ken ko ba to no chuma office. Sometimes sense ma ken ko mi to man tahi ko din na kan ni yo na trap. In small room pi tomo. Afi ne ken ari agbasane bolomo. In small bolomo. Ke abolo pi e film tomo. Like no confid. Once ma ho e ko le ke wan kona ko ma be shin jame din. Ken ko sa ma fie ken afi. Okay. She akisimo in small bamo wa. Ni e time agbamo. Yeah. No ani because ken quench here can say ken ko ba mo ko be e ko le ma mi ne ba tole ni e ba here sane am because ken mi follow boys ni inte ya here mo ko say ni ko la afi no ko ni sane ba na mo mkete police station e ba to mami e ba here ba ye ba so oh sanma boy na kama jari BF.
Okay. So it's interesting because what you're saying is that, and I've heard this from a lot of people where it's like the reason why you don't do certain things is that you don't want to worry your mother.
Yes.
Because of the love for your mother.
Yeah.
So for people who, and your mother your mother is still alive.
Yes,
you have a relationship with her. There are some people who lost their mothers very young. They won't have that check and balance that you have. So do you have any sympathy or for people who may not have that? And what do you have to say about that?
The people
who maybe they don't have their mother around, or they don't have a mother that is telling them what to do. Yeah.
Me dear question like imami chomi non ma fi shin in follow entry. Yeah. Ke entry ke ma ke o ko fe mo ne I will do it. Can entry ke ma ken ka fe fi. Like ani yo shin. Ina mo kun ba wo ke ma ta shitomo like e wo mi na. Okoka chombie first ni mami rio she ba share ko e mami e tomo e give up because he is stubborn. She in Panakani I think he can hospital for I think 1 year.
Why? What happened?
Yeah. In le noni happen ojuba she no me ayi pork plotulu. In akani film. She je noni na no me a import mango. Mango. I'm ke jogana ke outside. On aka me wole chufan.
Yeah.
On me wa chuni e jame. Ke wa chuni e tan ke. Aha we ko. Yo ne ba fitum. E kule kan wo ko e maye fiu ke no ne hwe eja. On aka noni. Film na kan ne. O china ne ake. Pipe chon. Im Google mi ke ba jipo. Imi the one Ibala Ghanaian get 37. Techon, you go me. I passed you a lot.
I know you're saying that, but it's like I'm even underestimating that. Okay, let me just, because we have to see where we take it. He doesn't understand what's going on. We'll come back to this. You are saying that your family had a lot of money
Before.
What happened? At first, you understand this because maybe.
Okay. Okay. No, I don't want to say it.
You don't want to say it. That's fine. That's fine. But then, what? So, what? How does that make you see people and money, or people who have money today, and so maybe it affects their behavior. What advice would you have for people who have money or people who are chasing money?
And the best thing I'm in here, before being this one, my woman, ni in what may be na me share hope. Yeah, in what may be ni I may share kuni, you come here, I may share kuni, I may class. My support.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. In Namakuni here, BPA. Sano like all support. CJ mo fiamu na support. Yeah, mo kwenu ba support le ba fito no fiano. Yeah, mo kwenu ba support le mo ba fi jo mabo. Yeah. Ndi mo fiamu ni sani. Ko here ska ke hale. Mo ko club an here ska no ko hale. Ik ba fi no koni. Ba no bashpo.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the people that you've helped, do they all remember the help that you've given?
Amenya me ko mo ku ke ma ku ba ke o challenge bo mfe ne ken yi. Je mo fiamu. Je mo fiamu. She like onake olebeni na ni na mo. Ina ni na mo tomo gbele. Gbele like you bagbo you die.
Okay.
You die, yeah. Ina ni na mo tomo gbele. You can get money tomorrow. You can die tomorrow. Yeah, that's life. Yeah.
Okay.
You can make it today. You can die today.
You can die today.
That's life.
So then, what does that mean? Does it mean you shouldn't work hard?
No, we have to work hard. We have to work hard.
Because somebody will say that if I can die tomorrow, then why am I stressing myself? Let me go.
No, ona keshi. No, life ni. No koni yo ni sani wale. La keshi. Sano work hard. No nashika. Because homo wai. Homo wa. You understand?
Yeah, anger.
Yeah, iwa. Because uye. No ye kuni. Kejelebi. Tagbe 2 o'clock. Ebe easy. Ni nchona kama jani BM. Mi be opinion touch ni ihinshika. Shin. Mokole akinhinshika. Ni mu. Iwada ni manyama ke mokwa kashi. Ihinshika. Shimi tuoshika. Yeah. Shike ekule mokontuo no kwe enforce kashi. Manyama hale. Yeah. Shin. Ke ekule mi need na kan help. Be opinion touch me need help. Shin. Mokoben mabi.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Ni ka ke shinke mo kwena shika mene like ike feel wale. Ko hin shika. Ko nyame nto ba nyo support le. Because ole ni e ba nya waboye. Yeah. O ni ne na left and right. Ena juo na unjuo na. Na ke yo.
Okay. You said before that you used to be very stubborn, or you're still stubborn.
No.
You're not stubborn, but you used to be.
Yes.
Okay. So
stubbornness no jino ni ke na MFN. Can be na chumito. Bottle. Yeah, achumito.
Tell me about that one.
I think no what the first born a wife mamiala me. Like boys and yeah, abesh. She attention. Or ni nake route ko no. In stubborn that she stubborn ni yo ni he. Hope you understand. Like
you can fight.
I can fight.
Yes.
That's me, I can fight.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yo ket mo inake no kunya no. Yes, ma force akeshi. Ma ni naka ni esafo. Gidi ni boys no. O ninte akeshi omini ya no. Small nyeba fiti program amepa ona akeshi. Moko hieto ni ke trashing. Eke trashing ken ese shamo ne ken. Ni ba ho mbie ne. Munle.
Okay.
In feeling no on senior sister kwele le on train te kema kashi a effect mon share teche effect mon share teche yeah oni nkwe dani ibon feeling mo kashi ibotemi deep one we first out of at the hospital ni akpe.
Okay, so you can fight.
Yes.
It means that you have fought a lot. The only people who know that they can fight are people who have fought a lot and have won. Me, I was in one fight, class 1.
Daddy, boss, like, in hey, Twankish like, always say, it's money, man, no, can you know? I can defend myself.
Okay.
You understand? Yes. Ke ibale, manima defend ye. Ni kenke mo ko hie manyama defend na kamo na kan yo. Always say my people like okay, but odago before no people nda ya bibio. Very small. Oh, just in small game defend no. It was like here basa no. Yeah, I'm cool guy. Yeah, cool.
Okay. So if a young guy, let's say he's 17 years old, comes to you and says, Boss Albert, tell me what I should do with my life to stay out of trouble and then give me a chance to, like, what advice will you give me so that I can do well or be okay? What advice will you give him?
A young guy like 17 years.
17 years, yes.
Best thing my lazy. Okay, one thing on okay, ole nyumona. Call le nyumbo. Nibi kumeko ko ya obi sure be because we sure nyumbo be or nibi kume no nyofe. No stay away nyanyuma. Cafe friends be. Yeah. I have friends a lot but impeta me nakai. Kemi ho ken ho mini ano. No. Cafe nyanyo because coffee nyanyo. Eke babu te ko ne sa no babu te. Yeah, in nyanyo me pi she in close friends here makula ke boafo best friend. In fe best man ke eben leon keleji in gym mates ni. Okay. Ni nyanyo me gym ye nyanyo me pi she boys aya heko abatashi anu dan ke ni bi ona mi imba jame.
So boafo, tell me about boafo. How did you meet him?
Boafo is like a brother with a brother. Keleji no bibio. Like what feel be like
tell us all the things. Boafo.
Oh, Boafo.
At least one thing you can say. I know a lot of the stories you can't say on camera, but at least something that you can say.
I can say it.
You can say it. So tell us. We want to know Boaf.
I can say it. Boaf. Okay, Boaf is my teammate. I say it's my teammate. I say that like we are friends.
Okay.
We're one area. Nee. Because we're shani. Ni. Ojabe olake. Bige be ashi wo. Boli wo.
Chicken.
Chicken.
Yes.
Ni like yenwe ho. The ekechi abe bajeme washame.
Okay.
Was set a trap. Okay. Okay. Kon ba obi. Kamba obi ko washame. Wala kai. Ke. Wati wapadi kumu. Wote area mi no. Wana woja me fapi. Chale wo feel flow. O biro afi ni. O jameni. O fit trap e. O kabili wo. Jabe ba ko washa to my 5. Ni money wo ni e ba ke edera mu ye no. Mu wi akoko na. Say oh madam, wo hwe bet me wi akoko. Who? Madam, you bet me to me akoko. I don't oh madam, show me. You bet me to me akoko. Show Boafo so. You to me yes sir. Say na mo say me gidi say mo to me yes sir. Like we still like 5.
So what do you do with the chicken? Do you sell it? Do you cook it? What do you do?
We cook it.
5. You ate all the 5 or you
no small. Ke Boafo mo, what do you want we? She go. Charlie. So
Boafo, but you were his best man.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Now it's a pastor.
Now it's a pastor.
Yes.
So Pastor Boafo.
Pastor Boafo.
So is he a pastor in the area or he's
no Boafo? Yes. Yes.
So you still see him regularly or not?
I see him through this today.
Through this
today.
Okay. Boafo, when he has time, he should come. We also want to interview him and know about his lifestyle. Okay, so now the reason why I was asking about stubborn, right? Being young is, I'm sure there are a lot of mothers, just like your mother, who have to do with stubborn sons. What advice would you give the mothers?
Oh, me advice mama me like I'm an tree. When I get be here tomorrow, you come across feel but I'll beat you like ye chuno kunoko we.
Okay.
Ye chuno kunoko. Me banyo me 1,000 times. Ma feel 1,000 times. Chikemi awie. Na time no kema awie. me call ke me wie make okay even call ke mo wie puni na ka shi ofu obele be sure ke ke afi pa on afi na ma ba fu because in kai one time no mention na lapam ni date lady ko chole dozia ni nkelebe like wapa ni no conclude ne ke here e ke no everyone ni lady I need help so e try me oncle injenu chuma ba ni meetle e guy ba gidi e mamonya chole like in say no kono machine the reason why I need food daji me kai mami keshin abete ko so small na kai o e mamonya chola watale ni wechela telephone ke mami nue ba ke abet e ko lo e ke do machine agbe mi we mamba ke mo also have to defend myself so start ake on fe gidi won no yeah o fina kan ni e not more 2020 guy meet me no men build up like in bashin no men build up ni ba mi kra na me twi fa edumotic mama attack like she that then go no oni na len fuira she twi fa yeah o mami me just ko ke obile barrier na twi ko no clear je gidi kafi ne ke ma fi mago no e chu no ko na twi no clear chele tashi like basane blow chiko go ale chu no ko
okay. Now you have a daughter.
Yes.
So you think about your mother, you also have to think about your daughter in anything that you do. How having a daughter change you? Did it change you?
Yes, a lot.
Okay.
Sometimes I no ya fi ojun obile hida. Eto mama mi no bit mama mi no yeah because ke rafi no kun backbone alo ya he kono la ke no ya dem be save sano join biken because ko te no ko happen to where ogba biken na o na kind on o biken no check your p
okay interesting. So you were saying that you see money like death. Tomorrow you can die.
Yes.
Tomorrow you can make it.
Yes.
So do you think about the future? Do you worry about the future? Do you plan?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So how do you plan? Because for somebody, if they accept what you are saying, they will stop planning because they'll say anything can happen tomorrow. No. So how do you do?
No. Reason only run a kind. You know, question. Make me na life tomorrow. Life no ne tomo o yeshika o mi no jimi shi obanyo o yeshika jelem shika fin obanyo yeshika bi ene yan wota chu obon obanyo ba back to zero no be 10% no ba bi mu koda no ba yi shi me ko na le tomo ko yeshika like bo yeshika obanyo yeshika me no yeshika na ke yo o ja ke shitomo me ri ke shitomo Shikanamo, Ninamo to Mobili, venture cash like, okay, force no fight in future. No, we have to fight.
Yeah.
Life, so no fight life, so no fight life, no winning. Yeah. Oh, no, on your Akashi. Ninamo to Mobili Akashi. Kewomanga. To advise people akashi sano na ke ninamo etomobile ona ke mokuba fila akashi le yeshka o eba underratable onunchi ele me pina me underrate omo even like was on what inuchumo you work as like in colleagues was on what me kuma any underrate omo p mini underrate omo yeah o me na life ni na shika huda and quality have to say it in na shikada Jakashi ina shikani make mi no shi ekochon no onu shishin yes yo timoke na moko ne ifieto mo le timo yo inyon tash ni ko le din akeshi like mini feel na kani yo shi mo fiamo like everybody have to fight life.
Okay, so let's talk about, you say you've seen money before. Can you talk about it like in general terms, like under what situations and then what's changed? You don't have to go to specific, but like generally, what were you doing and
J like it's money mache more it's money mache no me nuchu money no she chomo kono
Yeah.
Ni equation de. Ni ke support me. Ni
Okay.
ni ke support no rea ke shikachu fani. Me ken like. Yeah.
Okay. But that person okay now? Is it the person still has plenty money, or things have changed?
Things have changed.
Things have changed. Okay. What is what professions have you done? Because I think that's an interesting story. The kind of jobs that you have done.
Okay. Before man coach Kaufman service. Like of your glass cleaning. Yeah, la pump.
Glass cleaning.
Yes, glass cleaning.
Yeah.
Glass cleaning tech.
Yeah.
Yeah, me supervisor. Yeah. I think junior jam to 4 or 5 years.
What did you learn from that one?
Glass cleaning.
Yes, like what did you learn about yourself or about life from glass
No,
cleaning?
in kaseni bi pie jam. In kaseni ona keshin. Jam yani junior as a glass cleaner la pame. Onyo touch. Ni month end na people. Ikla people another month. Tomorrow 27th. Ni boy sending kame chune yes. Sanma ham no kufio na ke yeni. Go supervisor jeni. O sama chune like.
Yeah.
Oh, in ham no kufio sani. Ona no koni infio. I know how to give. No ibana. Ham like binafini. Noni hame motivation binafina menyame chuni na kaini yo. Kasi ni jeme akeshin. Jile me je daneni barale soft. Je ba se bawa. Yeah. In your life shishinwa. Yeah, you understand life.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Understand life because me enye tashike je lebi ko bashibeke ni yuko nida. Yeah, or in your life shishin. In your life shishin.
Then after La Palm, after working
after La Palm ke COVID long if you leketmo apartment eta they were here contractor.
Okay.
Or never feel inside me nothing no. No kelechuni feel.
What were you doing there?
In use of strawberry machine.
Okay.
Ke hale. No need use of ke hale.
Okay.
Ke feel nothing no. O ke kulele inyanyo kubana contractor ke yani ntike ke o tumobini ewo ekule banye ya mafagbe ekule maya okula ke ekule ko Florida aluna keneke ko ma chuni maba.
Okay, so you traveled a lot. Which parts of Ghana have you been to?
I think I can take Florida. Enyinem.
Okay.
Ke Apam ke Anumabu ke yeah, kwa places akomeno. Places ni yakoji Kumasi. Ke North.
Okay.
Jamin mitoma ya shiyakuja.
So when you go to all these places, is there something that you see that's different from Accra in terms of the way people act, or you think we are all the same, more or less?
Ona ke inya jama keshi tumo. Nya steady noko.
Okay.
I'm there to work.
Yeah, that's work. So just do the work.
I don't want any problem.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So if we picture, let's say 5 years from now, what do you want to be doing? What's the dream?
The dream is big.
Yeah.
The dream is big.
What's the dream? So we see how we can plan together for it. What's the dream?
Before me enjoy my cash, me to my belly clinic company.
Okay.
Yeah. She still can amafi. Yeah. She me to amafi some business. BBB come. Onake. Biane onake business ni. Ona la keshka be me to 5 cedis, 10 cedis, amena le 7 cedis can be amena le shishkani. If you're shika, yeah.
Okay.
Or no me pipeline and a job me like in small major level.
Okay.
Now,
Okay.
she
Yeah.
plans P.
Okay.
She's no koni be. Yeah, no koni be.
Okay. Okay. No problem. Okay. Okay. I think. Do you have a question for me? Something that you wanted to ask me. We haven't had a chance to ask. Do you have a question for me? You don't have any question? Or not for camera?
I have a lot of questions, but I can't ask this here.
You have a lot of questions.
Yeah. She might be boy camera.
Okay. No problem. We can do that one. We can do that some other time. I think there's a lot to discuss, and I'm even thinking I'll come up with something because I have to find a way of pulling some of the stories and the lessons from you.
P.
And I'll say I like the Ghana angle. You see, because when you're talking about people underrating people in parts of the world, sometimes it's like if somebody doesn't want to speak English or that wants to express themselves in a different language, you underrate the wisdom.
Yes.
You see. And it's not it's not right, but also if a lot of the content that people can learn from is all English, you also miss the opportunity to teach a lot of people. So I'm looking at you and saying that okay, if we can get, I like the GAN format. Unfortunately, my GAN is not good enough to ask questions. We'll figure that out. Maybe next time I'll let Clifford ask the question. Okay. But I think we can come up with a little segment where we ask some questions in GAN and then answer in GAN, and then we'll start sharing the knowledge that you have with other people. Because I know what I was telling everybody else is everything that you've been through, there's somebody going through it right now. What you went through when you were 17, there's a 17-year-old who is now going through it. He doesn't know the future. He's worried, and just seeing you and hearing from you will give him hope. At least somebody he can ask questions.
Because when Benny, you can 37 on a day 37. Nimi like mean pin. I came up with I think building like 8th floor. Keba Bishpon. A good gonna be a never JB. Chicken baby. Or try my own is small. Yeah. So son,
yeah. Wonderful. So thank you very much, Albert.
Welcome.
We'll do more of this.
Sure.